On the dawn of October 27, 1942, 420 miles northeast of Guadalcanal, Commander Edward P. Parker gripped the rail of USS Northampton as he watched the burning hull of USS Hornet slip beneath the waves, taking with her 140 American sailors and the last operational fleet carrier in the Pacific. Fires from ruptured fuel tanks lit the water for miles, turning the ocean into a mirror of flame that reflected the collapse of American naval power. 4 carriers in 10 months. At this rate, we'll have nothing left by Christmas, he wrote in his personal log, words that would have earned him a court-martial for defeatism if discovered by his superiors. Hornet's loss followed the sinking of Lexington at Coral Sea on May 8, Yorktown at Midway on June 7, and Wasp off Guadalcanal on September 15. The Imperial Japanese Navy, dismissed by American intelligence as mere imitators, had systematically destroyed over half of America's Pacific carrier force, while their shipyards continued to churn out new vessels. Thousands of miles away, in Newport News, Virginia, a welder named Margaret Thompson was about to begin a night shift that would mark the start of an industrial revolution. Unbeknownst to Commander Parker, America's darkest hour in 1942 was also the spark for the most extraordinary production miracle in naval history. The mathematics of victory would soon be rewritten not by tactics or technology, but by welding torches, assembly lines, and the full mobilization of American industry. What followed was a response so overwhelming that Japanese naval officers would later describe it as fighting the stars themselves. By 1945, America would launch 14 Essex-class fleet carriers into combat, more than Japan built in the entire war. The disaster had begun with Lexington, sunk at Coral Sea after absorbing multiple torpedo and bomb hits, claiming 216 lives. Yorktown, patched together in 48 hours after Coral Sea damage, succumbed to submarine attack after Midway, even as 4 Japanese carriers were sunk in that victory. Wasp fell to torpedoes in September, and finally Hornet was lost at Santa Cruz in coordinated attacks by Japanese aircraft and surface ships. By October 27, the United States had only 1 operational fleet carrier in the Pacific, facing 10 Japanese carriers, a stark arithmetic that seemed to spell defeat. Yet the industrial response began quietly in shipyards across the country. Henry Kaiser revolutionized construction, pre-assembling sections of ships for faster assembly. Welding replaced rivets, reducing labor requirements and training time. Ordinary citizens became extraordinary contributors. Housewives, farmhands, and African Americans previously barred from skilled work took positions as welders, shipfitters, and machinists, learning complex skills in days. The Essex-class carriers rolled off assembly lines at a pace that stunned both allies and enemies, each larger, faster, and more capable than the ships they replaced. USS Essex herself went from keel laying to commissioning in just 20 months, while new techniques, modular construction, prefabrication, and standardized components slashed build times even further. By 1944, women comprised 40% of laborers in Kaiser's shipyards. Emma Rodriguez, a Mexican-American mother of 3, became the fastest riveter in Norfolk, while James Washington, a former sharecropper, mastered fuel line installation at Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. Every day of delay meant more lives lost in the Pacific, and every new carrier symbolized hope, emblazoned on shipyard walls with photographs of USS Enterprise fighting alone. Meanwhile, the Japanese Navy struggled to comprehend America's industrial surge. Admiral Masatake Yakumiya noted with alarm that the United States was building carriers faster than pilots could be trained, each superior to anything in Japan's fleet. The pace only accelerated. By January 1945, Brooklyn and Newport News Navy yards were simultaneously building multiple carriers, including USS Lake Champlain, which went from keel laying to commissioning in just 15 months. Henry Kaiser's shipyards churned out escort carriers at unprecedented speed, some taking less than 8 months to complete, while Japanese equivalents required years. Behind every weld and rivet lay a vast supply chain: steel from Pittsburgh, aluminum from Tennessee, cables from Ohio, all coordinated to maintain the relentless tempo. Training followed production, with paddle wheel carriers on the Great Lakes qualifying 500 pilots per month. By August 1945, America's carrier force dwarfed Japan's. 4 carriers lost in 1942 had been replaced and multiplied into 14 Essex-class vessels in combat, supplemented by 9 Independence-class light carriers, 71 escort carriers, and remaining pre-war ships. Japanese officers recognized the reality. They had not lost to American strategy, tactics, or valor. They had lost to American factories, workers, and an industrial capacity that seemed limitless. Admiral Chester Nimitz affirmed that the war was decided not by battles, but by production. As America could replace one loss with 2 ready carriers, Japan could replace none. The legacy of this extraordinary mobilization was more than military. It transformed American society, empowering women and minorities, fueling economic growth, and creating a skilled workforce that shaped post-war industry. By 1945, the United States had turned catastrophe into dominance. Workers like Margaret Thompson had not only built ships, they had built victory, freedom, and the future. In the end, the 4 carriers lost in 1942 were not merely replaced. They were outnumbered, outclassed, and transformed into a fleet whose sheer production power made defeat impossible. The greatest weapon of democracy, as history would show, was not guns or strategy, but the determined hands of its people and the limitless capacity of a free society united in purpose.